They struck before dawn and tried to shove silver straight through a psychological floor. Around 4 a.m. London time, the paper market was hit hard. Price slammed toward 70, stops hunted, nerves targeted. It was supposed to look like a collapse. It was designed to feel final. But here's what actually happened. The drop failed. The market absorbed it, snapped back, and exposed something far more important than a red candle. This story is about a failed ambush, a system under stress, and the signals that leaked when control slipped for a moment. Stay with me, because the price move was just the distraction. The real reveal happened behind the scenes. You're watching a fast-moving breakdown of what they tried, why it didn't work, and what that failure tells us about supply, access, and the next phase of this market. Let's start with the hit itself. The timing was not random. Early London hours mean thin liquidity and maximum impact. They aimed for a level that lives in traders' heads. 70 isn't just a number. It's where retail stops cluster. It's where smaller accounts feel pain. It's where fear feels justified. So they drove it straight there. From the Asian session in the low 70s, paper contracts flooded the market. Price slid quickly, mechanically, to the high 60 range. The setup was familiar, big red candle, screens flashing, social feeds filling with panic. The expectation was a cascade, forced selling, margin calls, a deeper flush that lets shorts cover cheap. That's the playbook. It's been used for years, and this time it broke. Instead of rolling over, the market bit back. Price didn't drift. It ripped, fast, aggressive, the kind of rebound that doesn't come from hope or retail dip buyers, the kind that tells you someone was waiting with size, patience, and a reason. If you felt that gut drop when you saw the low, that's human. That's exactly what the move was engineered to trigger. But here's the question that matters. If that sell-off represented real fear and real supply, why was it absorbed instantly? If the rally was truly over, why did bids appear like they were starving? Look at the volume. That red candle wasn't organic selling. It was a dump. Millions of paper ounces pushed in a narrow window. That's not a crowd deciding together. That's coordination. And the moment it landed, it was met by buyers who didn't flinch. Not emotional buyers, strategic buyers. The kind who don't trade vibes or headlines. They trade availability. They trade delivery timelines. They trade spreadsheets, not candles. By the time most people were waking up and doom scrolling, the damage was already undone. Price was back above the open. Back above the level that was supposed to break confidence. That's why we have to call it what it was. A bear trap. They set it, they sprang it, and the market walked right past. Here's an uncomfortable truth. If someone sold the low, it wasn't because of careful analysis. It was because the move was designed to hijack the nervous system. That's not an insult. That's the mechanism. These tactics aren't meant to outthink disciplined participants. They're meant to overwhelm normal humans. Hands shake, decisions compress, clicks happen, and discounted metal changes owners. But while eyes were glued to the chart, something else happened. Something quieter, something more revealing. During that critical window, a key public-facing hub tied to the Western physical market went dark. Pages failed to load. Errors appeared. Access flickered right as stress peaked. This wasn't a meme site or a minor tool, it was infrastructure. Members of the community noticed it in real time, tried to load, got errors, shared screenshots while the candle was still forming. That matters, because it tells us two things. One, people are watching closely now. Two, the system does not like scrutiny when pressure rises. The easy explanation will be traffic, too many refreshes, routine issues. But that doesn't hold up. This is institutional-grade infrastructure, built to handle daily flows measured in billions, designed for volatility, designed for spikes. It doesn't just fall over because people are curious. So we have to consider the harder possibility. What if the display went dark because the numbers behind it didn't reconcile cleanly? In a physical market, there's one thing you cannot show: a negative. You cannot publish inventory that doesn't exist. You cannot reveal that the same bar is supporting multiple claims. You cannot let stress force an instant audit. When markets run on leases, swaps, and layers of promises, pressure is what exposes the seams. Stress is what demands reconciliation. Stress asks the one question the system hates. Show me the metal. Ask yourself this: if everything is fine, why does transparency flicker exactly when it's needed most? Why does the curtain close at peak tension? If you were sitting on numbers that could trigger a rush, what would you do? You'd buy time. You'd blame technical issues. You'd fix the display before the crowd saw something they couldn't unsee. Markets aren't polite. When narratives crack, they're violent. And while that was happening, another signal surfaced on the physical side. Small retail shipments out of a producing region began getting flagged and delayed. Not bulk industrial cargo, not refinery to refinery transfers. Small packages, coins, bars, retail orders. That's not random friction in a normal environment. That's a rule being applied. Customs doesn't feel fear. Software does what it's told. If small shipments get flagged, it suggests a filter changed, a switch flipped, quietly. That's what resource protection looks like at the early stage. No speeches, no headlines, just a slowdown, then a hold. You might think one country slowing exports isn't a big deal. Markets reroute. And that's true, until multiple choke points tighten together. Production, refining, clearing, shipping. When those lanes narrow at the same time, flow turns into a bottleneck. And bottlenecks don't ease gently. They hold, then they fail. Now let's tackle the argument that always shows up here. The price can't go that high. Industry won't pay it. Demand will vanish. Substitution will save the day. That logic sounds clean on paper. But paper logic collapses when it meets contract reality. Here's the framework. Certain technologies require silver at current performance levels. That's not ideology, that's engineering. If silver becomes more expensive, margins compress. That's true. Projects hurt, profits vanish. But industry doesn't buy inputs based on comfort. It buys based on obligation. Contracts exist, delivery schedules exist, penalties exist, and penalties are where demand becomes inelastic. If a manufacturer fails to deliver, they don't just lose money, they trigger penalties, lawsuits, financing breaches, reputation damage that kills future business. So the choice isn't, do we like this price? It's which option kills us slower. Option 1, refuse to buy silver, miss delivery. Trigger penalties, risk collapse. Option 2, pay the market price, take the loss. Deliver. Survive to renegotiate later. Most executives choose survival. They pay the ransom, not happily, but rationally. That's why demand destruction isn't neat. It doesn't switch off cleanly. It holds until companies break. And before they break, they bid aggressively just to breathe. So when we talk about higher prices, we're not talking about luxury. We're talking about liability, the cost of keeping the machine running. Zoom out and stack the signals. A coordinated flush failed. Infrastructure blinked. Physical flow showed friction. That's 3 layers telling the same story. If supply was abundant, the flush would have worked. If demand was fake, the rebound would have been weak. If inventories were comfortable, transparency wouldn't flicker. If metal was everywhere, borders wouldn't tighten on small shipments. The mistake most people make is treating silver like a stock. They think sentiment, they think narratives. But silver right now is plumbing, pipes, valves, flow. When plumbing tightens, price becomes secondary. Access becomes everything. This isn't about telling anyone what to do. It's about asking the obvious questions together. If a portal can go dark during stress, what exactly backs a paper claim? If shipments can be slowed quietly, what happens when the squeeze turns critical? And here's the open loop nobody likes to say. If that was their best shot, what's next? Failed traps have consequences. When a trap fails, the hunter is exposed. And exposed hunters escalate. They can raise margins, widen spreads, push narratives, blame speculators. But none of that creates metal. None of it refills vaults. None of it fixes a ledger that doesn't reconcile. That's why this moment matters. Not because of a dip, but because it showed the limits of control. They could push paper. They couldn't keep it down. They could scare people. They couldn't force a cascade. They could create noise. They couldn't create supply. After a failed flush, belief erodes. Fewer people panic next time. That's how manipulation loses power. Slowly, through credibility decay. And this market runs on confidence. When confidence in paper weakens, premiums become the headline. Delivery times matter more than charts. The real price becomes what it costs to actually get metal. Now pay attention to the zone ahead, not because it's magical, but because it's psychological. If price grinds higher after a failed break, the narrative flips. The "it's over" story dies. Late sellers feel pressure to re-enter. Volatility changes sides. That's where squeezes begin, not with fireworks, with failed drops. Let me ask you directly. When you saw the low print, what was your first reaction? Fear, anger, or calm? And do you think the infrastructure outage was coincidence or a curtain being pulled? Share your view. Thinking together is an edge. What's forming here is something powerful. A distributed sensor network. Thousands of eyes noticing glitches, delays, odd premiums, strange notices. That outpaces centralized media every time. They report later. This is live. Now, here's the uncomfortable part. What if the next phase isn't about price, but about access? Shortages hit access first. You don't wake up to triple digits. You wake up to out of stock, delayed delivery, allocation rules, verification steps. By the time price reflects reality, availability is already gone. If we're seeing early signals, blinking portals, shipping friction, then the risk isn't just volatility. It's a system under strain making defensive choices. And defensive systems try to project calm. They say everything is normal, but they leak. Small outages, longer delays, wider premiums. Each signal alone is nothing. Together, they form a pattern. We trade patterns, not rumors. So where are we now? A market that tried to flush and failed, infrastructure that blinked, physical flow that looked sticky. And a bigger question hanging in the air. If pushing down didn't work, what happens when pressure builds the other way? Because squeezes don't announce themselves. They start with dips that refuse to stay down. They start when strong hands realize the bluff is thinning. Then one day, a small move triggers a chain reaction upward. Here's a simple lens to stay grounded. Paper selling moves price fast. Physical demand absorbs shocks when it's real. The faster the rebound, the tighter the underlying market likely is. Risk remains. Another flush could come, bigger, nastier, designed to exhaust you. So the response stays the same. No panic, no chasing. Watch what matters. Premiums, delivery times, exchange behavior, shipping friction. Those are the fingerprints of a real shortage. One last open loop before we close. If a major hub can go dark once, what happens in the next stress window? Rule changes, delayed reporting, modified displays. Those aren't price questions. They're governance questions. If you notice anything odd, say it, share it. Observation beats shouting. Watch the quiet indicators. Dealer behavior, shipping notices, maintenance messages. If another pre-dawn hit rebounds even faster, that confirms shallow depth. If it doesn't rebound, the shortage goes public. If you want to stay connected to these real-time signals, subscribe. Simple and quick. Subscribe so we catch the next move together. And tell me this, do you think the failed smash was the end of the story or the beginning of something much bigger?